The NHS Green Bees project is exploring ways to mainstream sustainability into everyday clinical practice. I'm Tamsyn Cowden and I'm a community staff nurse in Powys, where I've been for 9 years. I absolutely love my job. I love the patients and I love being in the stunning farming countryside. So why did I feel I wanted to leave my job? Well, what I struggle with is the harm that I'm doing. Every time I drive, I contribute to climate change, which is causing farmers in other parts of the world to leave their farms due to floods or drought. Every time I drive, I'm contributing to increasing the risk of flooding of Welsh homes. Every time I drive, I'm contributing to a rise in temperatures, which, as every district nurse knows, results in a rise in urine infections, then more antibiotics, contributing to antibiotic resistance. Apart from car emissions contributing to climate change, we were producing a sea of plastic waste from our dressings, wasting energy from machines being left on, throwing away out-of-date stock, and then came COVID with its huge increase of single-use PPE and disinfectant wipes. The issues seemed insurmountable. Then two things happened. These photographs were put up on our trust announcements as examples of flowers and insects seen outside Llanrindod Hospital. The grass hadn't been mown due to the pandemic and was now being deliberately left to allow wildflowers and grasses to grow up and become a haven for bees and other insects. These photos gave me inspiration that the NHS could be part of a positive change. At about the same time, I saw the advert for the Bevan Exemplar project asking specifically for projects relating to COVID or climate smart working. It just hit me between the eyes and I knew I had to reply. So NHS Green Bees was born. It aimed to cut waste, cut carbon, save money and save bees. 8 teams in Mid-Powys were asked to take part. 6 of those teams completed the project. These were district nurses, midwives, dentists and specialist cardiac nurses. Each person in a team was asked to choose one new action from this selection. The final empty cell enabled adding an action of their choice. Because of the pandemic, I couldn't talk to people in person, so I made a little 5-minute video to explain the project and an action pack detailing each action, which I'll show you briefly now. Each action has a summary of the benefits and gives further information. You won't have time to read them now, but it's just to give you an idea of what people were given. So the first action is to reduce car miles. Next is resetting monitor brightness to 70%, which reduces energy use by 20% and also reduces eye strain. Changing to recycled paper is one of those easy wins. It not only saves wood, energy, water and carbon, but it's also cheaper as well. Creating a bee-friendly patch like the area of grass outside Llanrindod Hospital, or just planting up a small pot outside an office. Switching to fair trade tea and coffee supports producers to adapt to climate change and also reduce their own carbon emissions. Switching to a reusable bottle and remembering to take it everywhere with you. To reduce the amount of wasted stock, write a big expiry date on stock boxes and encourage the use of Hilditch, a company who auction out-of-date stock, which provides income for the trust and reduces landfill. Turn off photocopiers and computers at night. And recycle one extra item. Our team chose to recycle crisp packets through the TerraCycle scheme, and all money made goes to a farmer's mental health charity. Just as an aside, that's my team leader who's standing next to a display which I put up in our public waiting area to share the actions our team is taking. So, assessing the project, areas of minimal impact, no teams changed to fair trade products, and really sadly there was minimal mileage reduction. Areas that did improve, people started turning off computers and photocopiers more, they reduced their screen brightness, used more reusable water bottles, 4 teams switched to recycled paper, and there was one new team-specific action where they changed to less wasteful dressing packs, and bee-friendly areas were started. The actual calculations for the results were done by Professor Rich from Swansea University. He calculates that if everyone continues their actions for a year, we'll have saved hundreds of plastic bottles, cut waste, cut 260 kilos of carbon, saved £700 and created 4 bee-friendly areas. Professor Rich also helped produce a certificate for all participating teams. This gave the collective results for all the teams and will hopefully encourage further actions. So we did have some success, but the difficulties were, as always, lack of time, and staff didn't really see the project as a priority. This meant that many didn't read the action pack or watch the video, so they didn't fully engage. Also, I had to keep nagging some teams to start the project and then nag them at the end to send me their data, so it wasn't conducive to engaging staff with the issues. So I decided not to roll this out further, and instead I used all that I'd learned through the Bevan programme to launch a phase 2. I'd learnt the importance of engaging those with enthusiasm and those with influence. So I did 2 things. I started an NHS Green Bees staff group, which now has 15 enthusiastic members, and I engaged with influential staff, such as our sustainability manager and chief executive. The group is working closely with the sustainability team on a number of small projects, including getting recycled paper as the only option for the health board, increasing bee-friendly areas, researching alternative sandwich wrapping, that by the way is a whole project in itself, helping ensure a new heating system as individual room controls, and lots of other things like trying to promote the electric vehicle rollout programme. As well as the practical actions, the group has wider impacts. It's empowering staff to feel that we can all make a difference. And we're also influencing others, such as the catering manager who's now starting meat-free Mondays, both for the health benefits and for the carbon reduction benefits. The second phase of part 2, working with people of influence. When I asked our sustainability manager the one thing he thought would make a difference to sustainability in the trust, he said engagement of the executives. So I got approval of the chief executive and organised Cynnal Cymru to deliver carbon literacy training. Disappointingly, the offer of training was not widely taken up, so it's now been deferred to later in the year. And this time the trainer will be involved in sending out strong communications prior to the training to get people on board. I've also emailed the chief executive to ask if she might be able to attend herself as well. So, being involved with the Exemplar project has also connected me with other things, other groups, other people. The Green Health Wales initiative, which is being launched on the 29th of June by a really inspiring group of NHS staff, including a past Bevan exemplar. NHS Green Bees will be mentioned as one of the pockets of green actions which are springing up now all over the Welsh NHS. My Bevan experience, the challenges. This photo depicts what I felt like on day 1 and still feel like today when I compare myself to my fellow exemplars. There has been a lot of frustration as well. Really, because I feel so passionately that the changes we need to make will give us all a happier, healthier and more equitable world, I just can't understand why others don't have the same urgency as me. IT, I am atrocious at it. And social media, I'm afraid I never did crack it. Apologies, Bevan Commission. I frequently feel like I'm failing, but the Bevan programme has taught me that's okay. I just have to pick myself up, connect with others, and then try again. My new motto is, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Alongside the challenges was also joy. The lectures we had were really inspiring, and the exercises, they often seem so simple, yet they just work like magic, getting to the core of all the issues I had to deal with. Although I felt the other exemplars were out of my league, they were still incredibly encouraging and said I'd made them think about sustainability within their own projects as well. The Bevan staff were extremely supportive whenever I asked for help, thank you. And contact with other similar-minded NHS staff has made me feel I'm not alone and meant that I'm staying in my job to keep working for change. I'd like to finish with a quote. The health of ecosystems on which we and all other species depend is deteriorating more rapidly than ever. We are eroding the very foundations of our economies, livelihoods, food security, health, and quality of life worldwide. It is not too late to make a difference, but only if we start now, at every level, from local to global. Thank you.
We will now have a Q&A discussion. Do you feel that COVID-19 distracted people from environmental issues? If so, do you think this affected their engagement with your project?
Yeah, it definitely was. I think there's always going to be things that people are going to put above the environment anyway, and I think we're at the point now where you can't put it further down the list any longer. So I knew that was an issue, but it didn't put me off doing it. I think one of the sort of knock-on issues, I guess, was because it meant that I couldn't have face-to-face with anybody. And certainly the Green Health launch Wales was yesterday, and like you say, Tom Downs, their team has done amazing work in the hospital, and I was so jealous. They said they had a stall outside. It was pre-COVID as well. They had a stall outside the canteen and got lots of people, to come in and have a little chat. And that has been hard, not being able to see people in the flesh, so to speak. If I'd been able to go round to each team with the original project and engage people and give a proper presentation, I thought they would make 5 minutes to look at my video, but no. So yes, COVID was of course the major priority, and in a lot of ways, of course, it should have been. But in my head, this is we should be doing them both together, and hopefully eventually people will come to that. But yeah, COVID didn't help, but in a way, maybe it's making people think differently, and there are so many knock-on good effects. Like, I don't know if I'd have done the Exemplar program myself if I'd had to go to Swansea, and the fact we could do it all at home online, and the fact that all the projects, practically all the projects that I heard about on the Bevan Exemplar from all the others, all had carbon reductions because of COVID, because of using technology more. Yeah. So yes, COVID was a hindrance to me personally, but on the bigger agenda, it was probably a positive. I don't know.
Why do you think transport didn't in Paris?
I think it's because I was people, when they sort of rated what they'd achieved, I think most people felt they'd achieved a little bit in terms of meetings, but because it was clinicians that I was dealing with, like community midwives, district nurses, they were, and the dentists were just stationary anyway. So we all had to carry on doing our visits and everything just as much as before. What I would have liked was more planning, more awareness when we're talking about where we're going, just an increase in awareness, and therefore there are places that mileage can be reduced, but they didn't seem to come into it. As I say, I think because people didn't look at the video and they didn't read the action pack, which had all the extra information, they didn't engage as much as they could have done. And it's certainly an area that I would love to look at in more detail. I think there was a project in Dorset where district nurses went, they bought 1 or 2 electric bikes, and I think there's huge potential to have like a local round structured, so you go out on bikes, and that, again, looking back to the Green Health Wales Day yesterday, there's a lot of talk there, wasn't there, about active travel, and for the nurses as well, because being a district nurse, you're not having any exercise, so obviously it's weather dependent, but I think there's potential, I do.
Could you discuss the role of your sustainability manager?
Yeah, we do have a sustainability manager who I had been aware of before doing the project, but hadn't engaged with, and he was key in the phase 2 in setting up the NHS Green Bees group. He's just key, and his assistant. So yeah, he's been fantastic, and I think he's really benefited from having us. He's just felt like they were alone and nobody cared in the world. So definitely just to have that sort of moral support of each other, and just we're kind of like his eyes and ears now. Like somebody on the most recent meeting said, "Oh, what about all these black plastic bags? You know, we've got 12 in our offices, and the cleaner goes round and puts 12 half empty plastic bags inside each other." And he said, "Oh gosh, you know, we thought we'd dealt with this ages ago, but obviously they've all crept back or whatever." So we're kind of, really useful as his eyes and ears as to what's actually happening on the ground. And, you know, a bit like you saying, well, the Bevan exemplars are people that know what's happening actually on the ground. We're a bit like that for him. You know, all of us in the group, we can go, well, hang on a minute, this is happening. What can we do? And sometimes it's things that he's already looking at. But sometimes just that sort of, working together, or somebody can go, oh, last time somebody's taken on the IT, because it's not something he's thrilled about either. And the messaging, you know, Natalie, hearing yours, you know, you're fantastic in the way you've managed to reach out and get media and things, whereas that's a weak area of ours. But I kind of was aware of that, and somebody has volunteered to do that. So hopefully, just within the trust, I think we're going to get better.
Have you discussed how sustainable waste management can also save money for the health boards?
Yes, we have. I've been in touch with the continence people, and we've had quite a conversation about pads and the benefits. It's not clear cut in terms of going to reusables. That's a complex one, and I have to say, it's not. Sorry, I didn't hear that. It's like you say, they did do a very big overhaul of continence within our health trust. So they have taken sort of a control of how they give out the pads, and taking it out of the district nurses' control and taking it to the continence nurses' control. So they have looked at that. It's something that we'll probably come back to. But we're looking at everything, and it's quite a big task. But we're looking at anything and everything that people suggest.
Have you discussed the role that electric vehicles may play in sustainability?
Yeah, no, that's being looked at. Definitely, it's something that our sustainability manager is working on right now. We actually got night and district nurses. We thought we were going to get EVs for them, but it's again a bigger topic. You've got to look at the infrastructure of the electrics, that it's safe for the building. Then you've got to look at who pays to put it in, who is allowed to charge there, who actually pays for the charging. Are there different rates? It's complicated, but it is definitely something that we're looking at. We're aware, and that lots of other health authorities have done that, but it's more complex in a rural county like Powys than it is in say like Hereford Hospital. Have got loads of EV charging points, and apparently 2 of the consultants arrived in Landod in their EV Jags and said, where do we charge? Well, there was a place in Landod, but you know, we're a bit behind the times, but it is definitely, it's all happening. It's just, trying to get it faster.
Where are you going next?
I'm going to keep trying with the carbon literacy training, because I do think that, and education in general, I'm not sure that online education is something that is necessarily the way to go. But there's peer-to-peer training, and because I really think that if we can do it effectively, and it is a really big ask to do it effectively, so that you're not, you know, presenting all the doom and gloom, you're actually emphasizing that we're looking at a better standard of life. So, and looking at the practicalities, I just think that every single person in every trust actually wants to do positive things, but they don't necessarily know how, and they don't necessarily know how important it is and how urgent it is. So I think the education must be key. There are lots of different ways that we can do it. I mean, I know that the Bevan exemplar Tom lockdowns that you were saying in the hospital, they're doing loads of practical projects, and I reckon that, you know, a lot of them come on board. People will come on board because of the practical projects that they're doing, which is one way of doing it. I'm kind of struggling at the minute because our meetings are always virtual. I haven't even met most of the people that are on our group. So that sort of connecting with people, it is a struggle. So we'll have to keep going, really.